Hi, I'm Richard Lynch from the Richard Lynch Band, and we're on Mr. Media.
Richard Lynch is a country singer-songwriter who ended 2018 with a surprise honor, a place in the Ohio Country Music Hall of Fame. His final concert of the year on New Year's Eve was literally interrupted by a representative of the hall making the official announcement. Now, on less ostentatious occasions, the Richard Lynch Band can be heard on the road performing songs such as Country Music Isn't Country Anymore, A Better Place, Love Tattoo, and Mending Fences. He is the kind of guy people think of when they think of country. If you don't believe me, look at the guy. Come on. And his music is well known for Lynch's inclusion of his faith in its lyrics. If you're unfamiliar with the Richard Lynch Band, never fear. Richard Lynch will be performing 2 songs live on today's show. And Richard Lynch, welcome to Mr. Media.
Well, thank you, Bob, for having me. I appreciate being here, sir.
My pleasure. And for those folks who are watching the video, tell everybody where you are.
Well, we're down in South Texas, and when I say South Texas, I mean at the end of the world. We're just north of Brownsville. We're doing some shows down here in McAllen and Harlingen and Weslaco and several little towns down here for the next couple of weeks. So,
and
nice warm day, so I'll take it.
And where are you sitting right now?
We're in our camper. We drove our camper down from southwestern Ohio last night, just getting set up. Our tour starts tomorrow, so we're in just get by mode. We're not quite as set up as we'd like to be, but we're making it work.
Got it. Just wanted people to know that where we met up today.
Absolutely.
So congratulations on the Ohio Country Music Hall of Fame honor. Was it really a surprise? Was it set up, or did you not know it was coming?
I had no clue. My wife, she keeps me on a need-to-know basis, and that was one of those things I needed to know, I guess. I needed to know that night, and I found out.
Must have been pretty exciting.
It is. We've had a lot of great things happen to us here the last couple of years. Our music's being played in 34 countries right now. We've got several awards, and, we're doing what we love to do, and I'm proof positive that there is a absolute need for traditional country music out there.
Now, can you tell me about the moment? From what I read, that your show was literally interrupted on New Year's Eve. How did all this happen?
Well, we were playing our show New Year's Eve, and I guess we'd done 3 or 4 or 5 songs, and we had the dancers all up having a big time. They were ready to party and have a big time. And next thing I know, there's a couple of guys from representing the Ohio Country Music Hall of Fame, and when I first seen them come up, I thought it was a joke, and the next thing you know, I see this big plaque and these official members. I thought, well, this might be real. So it really turned out great. It was really authentically a surprise to me, and the picture they took is proof positive because my jaw hit the floor. I had no idea. It was fun.
Very nice. Very nice. And you said you've been at this for like 40 years now. Yeah,
June of 1978 was my very first paid gig. So been doing it an awful long time. I'm an awful lucky guy. I get to do what I love to do and see different parts of the country and meet a lot of great people. And I mentioned earlier that a lot of people are looking forward to that traditional sound out there. And, there's a few of us doing it, but it seems like I've kind of gotten into my niche where, I'm kind of known for the traditional country music thing, and that's probably where I always want to be anyhow. So it's working out pretty good for me.
So tell folks how you define the traditional country. Who would fall under that kind of under that umbrella? And then I hate to ask, but who would not?
Well, people like Conway Twitty and George Jones and Merle Haggard and I could go on for hours. Gene Watson, Mel Tillis, Gary Stewart, some of those traditional sounds that's been around for the 60s and 70s and 80s. I grew up listening to them tunes. I'm second generation singer. By that I mean my dad was an incredible singer, and I grew up in a household where traditional country music was pretty affluent. And for the folks out there that know what I'm talking about, you can't fool them. They know what a good country sound is. Yeah, the the newer stuff's not quite as country as I like to see things,
When did it start to change, do you think? Can you pinpoint that moment, or was it gradual?
Well, country music has always been diverse forever. There's been changes from even back in the '60s and '70s, and then a guy named Randy Travis came along in the '80s, and he brought it back more to the traditional sound. George Strait and Randy Travis, and then as guys like Garth Brooks came along and kind of progressed a little bit longer, more towards the progressive sound, the more modern sound. But I like the steel guitar and the fiddle and the three-part harmony and a storyline that kind of tells the song and inspires the writer to talk about that experience. And it seems like the older songs had a lot more of that what I call from the heart type of topic, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm. Now, somebody like Garth Brooks kind of introduced country to a much broader audience. It became much more pop, didn't it?
He really did. And in his first album, I think he was on the scene in 1989, and his first album was phenomenal. Just really what I would call straight ahead traditional country music. And then I guess Nashville got a hold of him, and he started to go in a little different direction. But yeah, his first album was, as far as I'm concerned, it's as good as anything it ever recorded. But it could be a shame. It's kind of a shame, in my opinion, because he was such a huge, and he still is a huge name. It'd be great to see him go a little more towards the traditional sound again.
Mm. Do you fault somebody like that, or even somebody even more current, like a Taylor Swift, who started off as a big country artist and has become now really just a pop artist? Is it a problem, or is it just they're going to go where they're going to go?
Well, they're going to go where they're going to go. They use the name country for a self-serving cause because country music has been really, really diverse and really successful. So they've basically taken the name country music and put their own particular music to it. But for the artists that know better and been around for a long time, they realize the difference between today's country by name and then what genuine country music really is. It's pretty easy to distinguish.
Hmm. Now you have a song, "Country Music Isn't Country Anymore," which sounded kind of ominous. Was that kind of your answer to what you see going on?
Well, yes. Our current album, or I should say our previous album, that was the conclusion of all the songs that was on that album. And I just know for a fact that there's room for everybody out there, but it seems like they have overlooked more of the traditional artists. And that was my little way of saying, hey, there's a lot of folks out there that still love that sound. And, that's the direction I'm going to go. And I've always gone that way. And just kind of let people know that there's still artists out there doing that traditional sound.
Hmm. Do you, no, we hadn't planned to do this, but I have to ask, since we wound up talking about this, could you possibly give us a line or two from that song, just so people know what we're talking about?
Okay. As a boy, I remember without fail every Sunday afternoon. My daddy played Merle Haggard loud enough to shake the shingles on the roof. All us kids in the neighborhood knew every word that Mama tried. And I've heard it on the radio not once since the day my daddy died. And it goes on and on and on. It kind of tells a little story there.
I like that. I like that. Thanks for adding that to what we're planning to do here. I think since we're talking about it, it seemed important. And tell me this: you mentioned that your second generation. Did your dad perform, or was he was he just someone who sang, or was he someone who went out and performed as you do?
Well, Dad, he was a performer long before I was ever on God's green earth. He wasn't just a performer, but he was an incredible talent. When you're a kid, you don't necessarily realize, because that's your dad. You don't necessarily realize until you get a little older, and then all of a sudden, you see all the people that he had touched and all the people that he had affected with his music. And to this day, he's still around our area. There, people still talk about him, how they he affected them at their music and stuff. It's pretty amazing. So yeah, I'm very fortunate that I grew up in a household where, Dad was just a good old country boy and singing. He gave me a lot of opportunities I probably wouldn't have had if it wasn't for Dad.
Was there any chance along the way that you might have gone into a different type of music? Was it always
Oh
country?
no way, man! I love that real country stuff. I played the honky tonks for all these years, and I played all kinds of music back then. Excuse me, I just dropped my guitar pick, so I had to
Oh,
find another one there. Sorry about that. And if you play a honky tonk, you're playing southern rock and rock and roll and all kinds of diverse stuff. And you have to keep a bar crowd coming.
hmm.
And I love that music. Don't get me wrong, but my heart's with the traditional sound. So if I'm recording and doing it, as an artist, that's the sound that I truly want to do, is the traditional sound.
Got it. And I was going to say, I think besides Conway Twitty, I think you also have mentioned Keith Whitley as an influence. And
Oh man, I got to do a show with Keith in 1988, just a little bit before he died. He died in 1989, and man, he was a huge influence on me. And to this day, Keith only recorded 3 albums ever, national released albums. And I get to thinking, after I've played those 3 albums, just think if he'd lived a little longer, what kind of influence and how the big success he would have been. He might have been as big as Garth Brooks or whatever, because he was on his way to being a superstar.
is there a particular song that you've written and recorded yourself that where you can see and feel Keith's influence on you?
You know, I've never been asked that before, but our new song, "Pray on the Radio," might have been something that Keith might have sang, because we had similar upbringing. He was from Eastern Kentucky, and I wasn't from there, but my dad was there. I spent an awful lot of time in Eastern Kentucky, and you know everybody that does this music very long has done radio tours,
Hmm.
and that's how the song came to be. The "Pray on the Radio" was basically from a real live conversation doing a radio interview. We were on a telephone driving down the road, and I'm sure Keith Whitley shared many of those experiences. So as I think about it, "Pray on the Radio" might have been a great song that Keith could have done.
Hmm. Well, now that you've gone and told us about that song, I know we were going to play that one second. Maybe we should go with "Pray on the Radio" first. Would you mind?
That's good.
All right, let's do it.
That'd be good. I was just talking about this, in conversation. This song is an actual experience. For someone to just sit down and write it, you would have to think, how did this come to be? But the song is an actual experience, and so when you hear the lyrics of this song right here, you can understand that it really was a actual experience, an actual interview. Let's go ahead and sing it for you. It's called "Pray on the Radio." I've been writing my songs and telling my stories. I finally got my songs played on the radio. I've been doing interviews around the country, and then one day a DJ asked me, "Can I pray with you?" He said, "Do you mind if we pray on the radio? Do you mind we talk about the Lord?" I truly believe that God's watching over you. There's no better company than Jesus while you're on the road. Well, I told the DJ right then I'd be more than happy to share my thoughts and inspirations about my song. I'm thankful God likes my music enough to ride with me. So if you're hearing my country music, you know that Jesus tags along. Do you mind if we pray on the radio? Do you mind we talk about the Lord? I truly believe that God's watching over you. You know there's no better company than Jesus while you're out on the road. I know there's no better company than Jesus while we're out on the road.
All right. Thank you very much. That was very nice. I'm wondering. Now there isn't a lot of, in mainstream country stations these days. There's not a lot of religion in the songs that get played. Does that ever? Does that ever become a problem for you that you do include that, or is that a selling point? I guess.
It's amazing. I never give that much thought, but whenever we perform that song and in our live performances, I'm amazed at how many people actually come out of their seats because for some reason or other that song connects with them. And I really wouldn't call myself overly religious. I believe in the man, but that song it just shows respect for the man upstairs, and it also just shows respect for the fact that I'm singing about my traditional country music, and he likes my music enough to ride with me. So I'll let everybody make their own connection, whether they want to call it religious or not. But it just shows my respect for the man upstairs.
I would think that would be a song that, I know you told me that it's getting played on the radio, but it's probably always going to be a much bigger in-person type of song, the kind of thing that's always going to go big in when you're on stage, when you're in front of an audience. Just seems like the kind of thing that would.
It really does. I mean, people that's never heard it before, when we perform it, it's really hard to put my finger on it, but it seems within just a few lines of the song, people are singing along with it, and for the people that have heard it before, sometimes they sing it louder than what we are. So people just really kind of gravitate to that particular song, and I'm thankful. I mean, it came to me. I'll say that I held the pen. That's all I did. Inspiration hit me right during the middle of that interview, driving down the interstate, and just so happened to be a pad of paper between me and my wife that day. And I'm driving, trying to find a pen, trying to write, and my wife seeing that I was struggling, and she grabbed the paper and she started writing exactly how she heard the conversation, and every line in that particular song is exactly how the conversation went with that interview that day. It's just amazing.
Why am I hearing, though, while you're scrambling to drive, reach for paper and pen, and she might be yelling, "Jesus, hold on to the wheel!"
Well, her eyes got big a couple different times when we were driving down there. So, we got to give credit where credit's due. Thank goodness for my wife, because she, I managed to keep us safe that day, and we got a song out of it. So it worked out great.
Well, so what other kinds of things inspire you to write a new song, and how often do you actually, come up with something new?
Well, music comes to me for inspiration. I can sit down and write a song, but for the most part, I like to write a song about something I just experienced, or a line someone said, or we were watching a television show just recently, and it was called Real Country, and there's a couple people out there doing their interview of some new artists, Shania Twain and Travis Tritt, and they had these artists come on, and I'm watching this show, and the next thing you know, they had these a trio out of Texas, I'm sorry, and they was going back behind the stage, and they were showing them shuffling up these cards to like they're going to play some cards, and I jumped up and wrote this song called "Fast Times and Easy Money." I'm telling you this because I never know where that inspiration is going to come from. We were just sitting there watching a TV show, and that song came to me. So basically, I like to experience and I like to feel the topic, how my songs get wrote. You know, somebody has something. I've been asked to write songs before, and I can kind of do that. But for me, it's better just to experience that whole realm of what I'm writing about.
So when this interview is done and you sit down to write a new song, will I get a co-authored credit on Jesus Hold the Wheel?
You know, I get asked that every now and then. You're going to write a song about me, and exactly here's my name and number, and send a check here.
Well, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that I'm Jesus. I'm not saying that. But you know, I'm just saying that I think Jesus Hold the Wheel. I think you got something there.
Yeah, I got
it. So the other song you're going to sing, the second song you're going to sing, I guess second and a half now because we squeezed you into country music song, is Old Feed Store. Now that sounds like that's probably got a good story to it too.
It is. You know, this particular Old Feed Store, we just filmed. We did a concert down there. I wrote this song about it. And as a kid, I would go there with my mom and dad, and we was raised on a farm, and we were always buying, 400, 500, 600 pounds of feed to feed the horses and cattle. And this was an every weekend experience we did. And a friend of ours just bought that Old Feed Store, and he had heard a couple of my songs, and he said, "Richard, you need to write me a song about the Old Feed Store," and he was just joking. Well, I thought, that's not a bad idea. So I go to the house, and I grab my flat top guitar, and a guitar player, Tim Bennington, he's been playing lead guitar for me for several years now. He happened to come by. I said, "Tim, grab your guitar. Let's work this out." And between him and myself, we wrote the song about the Old Feed Store. And it's really a testament about how I grew up. And I'm glad to see that there's a next generation because, people need to understand what that was at once a time, a great way of life. And that, for some people, it still is. But it was a more prevalent way of life for me as a kid. All the old farms, feed store, and that kind of thing. So that the song is really a true story. How I remember it as a kid, basically.
Well, I think we're all looking forward to hearing it now. If you're ready,
for you.
All right.
Growing up in the country, I remember well how I loved the simple way of life. There was lots of work to do. We had fun there too. Seemed like we were always fixing that old barn roof. When the weekend came, we'd all ride into town, listening to Paul Harvey and the Farm Report. I didn't know back then that I'd miss it now. What a boy can learn the Old Feed Store. Life was so much easier back then. My mind goes back there to when a simple riding dad's pickup truck, making memories galore. Down at the Old Feed Store. I've had so many blessings, more than I deserve, and I'm thankful for all the things I've got. I'm thankful for direction and all of those corrections. Mom and Dad, they taught me quite a lot. If I live to be 100, I've got no regrets. I could have never asked for anything more than the country way of living and the fact that I was given a chance to be around that Old Feed Store. Life was so much easier back then. My mind goes back there to when simple riding dads picked up the run, making memories galore down at the old feed store. Down at the old feed store.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bob.
That was very nice. Thank you very much. So, for folks who are not familiar, have not seen the band, have not seen you out, generally, where can they find you? Where do you guys play? Where are you around?
Well, the best place to catch up with us is just go to richardlynchband.com. You can see our schedule, all our merchandise, all our different social media outlets. We're on all kinds of places now. Reverb Nation, just all the main social media events with music. We're on all of them. We're very fortunate that we get to play an awful lot these days, and we're recording with some of my heroes these days. And so just go to richardlynchband.com, and we'd love to hear from them. Maybe we get to see some folks out there.
So you guys play out live quite a bit.
Oh yeah, we work, at least 100, 150 nights a year. Wow. Sometimes a little more than that. So we work quite a bit. We're in South Texas for the next couple of weeks, and we're going up to New Orleans and doing a country music cruise out of New Orleans the 17th of February. So we're out on the road for about a month right now. So it's a lot of fun.
And do you interact with people on Twitter or Facebook, any of that kind of stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I don't. My wife, she's the brains of this operation. She does all that stuff. So thank goodness for her.
Okay. Nice of you to give her some credit. I appreciate that.
Oh, well, I tell you I do, but all my people that know me out there would know a whole lot, see right through that, I guess you might say.
And have you been playing with the same band for a while? Is it the same group of people?
Yeah, well, the bass player and I started out as kids together playing, and we're still playing together. So,
what's his name?
The steel player, been with me 25 years. The drummer been with me 26 years. The newest member is our piano player. Started with me back in September, and the guitar player Tim been with me about 3.5 years. So for the most part, we've been together an awful long time. So we're very, very lucky guys hang around with us. You
want to throw the guys a mention? Tell us their names.
Absolutely. John Haney plays bass guitar from Middletown, Ohio. Chris Oliver from Carlisle, Ohio, plays drums. Doug Goltz from Richmond, Indiana, plays steel guitar. Tim Bennington from Adams County, Ohio, plays lead guitar. And last but not least is Tony Williams from Waynesville, plays piano and keys. So 6-piece band and a good bunch of guys.
Is that kind of is there a requirement that you Ohio guys got to take at least one person in from Indiana? Is that how that works?
Well, no, it just worked out that way. Now those guys are who I work with a lot back down in Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana. And there's times that they can't go. Now we're on a Texas trip, and right now I got some musicians out of Missouri and Texas that are traveling with me. So you got to be very agile and have some connections around the country, or you'll miss some opportunities. Like right now, Mr. Butch Gillum is playing bass with me on this Texas tour. He's from Missouri, so we're glad to have him on board too. So
very nice. All right. Well, Richard Lynch, it has been a pleasure getting to know you, hearing 2.5 songs live. I appreciate that. And thank you so much for joining us today on Mr. Media.
Hey, Bob, thank you, my friend. I hope we can do it again soon. And to all your listeners, appreciate the opportunity to play for you.
Lights on the streets now. deceiver. Turn your back on the deceiver. It's a bad idea to believe her. A bad idea to believe her. Turn up the stereo receiver. Turn up the stereo receiver.